McMurdo, thank you so much indeed for joining me this morning. Delighted to have you with me.
Thank you for having me.
How's the last year been for you? And I suppose, as one of the doyens of the world of upcycling, how are you viewing the world and viewing kind of what's going on out there?
It's been quite mixed, actually. I think to start with, I naively thought I was designed for lockdown. Because my job is quite a sociable thing, I tend to enjoy my own time of an evening, winding down on my own. I'm quite used to that and I enjoy it. So early on, I was being quite jovial and suggesting, oh, I was designed for lockdown. I can't wait to go paddleboarding on my own and have dinner on my own and be left in peace and quiet. And when the sun was shining last summer, I think that was maybe the case. But I've since realised how reliant I am on things like watching the rugby in a stadium full of people I don't particularly know, but we're shoulder to shoulder, we're having a beer together. So I'm much more of a social creature than I think I gave myself credit for. And in terms of work, it's been quite strange. I didn't realise how much I rely on my work as my identity. I felt a bit lost actually without doing what I do. And I moan at the time when we're filming a show about the stresses and the tight deadlines, the small budgets. But actually, I think I rely on them to get that buzz, to overcome problems. I'm a problem solver by nature. You know, the world of design and upcycling, it's all about overcoming problems and solving them. And I've really missed that. And I've had to almost re-identify myself. And I've spoken to a counsellor a couple of times about it to say, I feel really lost without my work. Who am I? What do I stand for? And I've had to take a step back and breathe deep and think, okay, it's all right for me to sometimes not go to my workshop, not lift up tools, not make sawdust. It's okay for me to maybe sit here and sketch or sit here and write, go for a paddleboard and clear my mind and try and think of new concepts for something that's coming up in the future. So long story short, the first half was fantastic. The second half I found a lot harder.
But do you find in terms of your productivity levels, the fact you are taking these, not taking breaks, but doing other stuff, which actually isn't inherently working, is actually making you more productive when you are actually focusing on what you need to do?
Bizarrely, I'm probably achieving more, which goes completely against what I would have guessed and what you're kind of taught from a young age, I suppose. But yeah, I think being creative is quite hard. You can't force it. You can't sit down from 9 till 5 and be creative and come up with ideas and draw. Quite often an idea will pop into your head when you're just drifting off to sleep or in the bath. That's my favorite one. It seems that if I relax in a warm pool of water, my brain relaxes and the ideas start to flow. So I always have to have a sketch pad with me in the bath. Nice. So yeah, I think my productivity generally has probably been better. I've given my mind some space.
Did you start, when you started doing this, was it with a mindset of it being a business? Or was it a mindset of actually this is an interesting challenge for me and what comes of it comes of it?
I think as a designer, you have to accept that probably 99% of your ideas don't become commercially successful. That doesn't mean they're not successful. I've got sketchbooks everywhere of ideas I've come up with that I'm so proud of, but I've not made a penny from. And often I spend thousands and thousands on developing a new idea. And like after about $5,000, you think, oh, I'm not ever going to get my money back on this, let alone make a return on investment. So it's a very difficult, that's probably one of the hardest parts of being a designer, I think, is letting go of an idea that you love. It's your baby. You've dreamt about it. You've nurtured it. You've developed it. You've invested financially and time-wise in a project. And at some stage, you've got to put your head above the parapet and go, this isn't going to work commercially. And that's okay. But the biggest design, not failure, but the biggest frustration I'll take to my grave was 2 years ago. I went to Africa and we started building schools out there. And that was brilliant, best experience of my life. But we didn't have any building materials. They don't sell bricks. There's no DIY store out there. So I went to the tip and asked if I could purchase plastic bottles. And I could for about 0.01 of a penny each. There's thousands of them out there, millions of them out there, and they're our waste. They're Western waste. So it's an embarrassment to us. We ship it out there, out of sight, out of mind. So I came back to the UK and I developed a cardboard box that holds 8 plastic bottles, into which you can put all the soft plastics as well, that created basically a Lego brick made out of rubbish. And honestly, it was the moment. My life, everything I'd ever done came together into this moment. And I, in the UK, stacked up these blocks, they clipped together, they were insulative in terms of sound and temperature. And I thought, this is my moment. Took it to Africa, built a school classroom out there, and the whole thing came to an end when the government came in and said, well, actually, we're changing our building regs, of which they didn't have any at the time. And now you can't build with anything other than this certain concrete block. And it was to do with an accident that had happened and whatever. And my whole world just came crumbling down. I thought, oh my goodness, that was my moment. However, it still happened and I still did it, and I still loved the process and the problem solving involved. And I remember vividly the moment when I went, oh, and I collected the first prototypes and they locked together. You can't take those moments away. And I think that's the key as a designer. That's the bit of the process that we enjoy the most. If you get £1 million, £2 million or three, that doesn't excite a designer really, not many. It's about the what if moments. It's about the eureka moments. It's when a couple of things come together, or you find a new material or a technology or a dimension works out just perfectly. That is what excites most designers. And actually, if you said to them, can I swap that for some money? They'd go, no, that's what makes me tick.
So can I ask, because kind of you see a lot in business that the projects are started and the money's spent on the project. And then actually there comes a point whereby so much money has been spent, they keep on going with the project. As a designer, is it something that's innate in you, the fact you're proud of what you've done, even if it doesn't go to completion? Or is it something that actually you've had to educate yourself about?
Now what I do actually, and it was since Dragon's Den, so my experience on Dragon's Den was ultimately a good one. But very early on, it felt quite negative, I remember, because Deborah and Theo, who invested in me, they said, right, what you've got to start doing is, I was very childlike in my design. It was kind of come up with a concept, develop. Then at the end, go, I love it. My mum loves it. Now, how much did it cost me? I've got to double that for my profit margin. A retailer then has to double it again for their profit margin, and then go, oh, I've designed a chair that's £5,000 that won't ever sell. Yeah. So what they got me to do was very early on, start the conceptual side of things, do a few sketches, and then stop there, and then jump to the perceived value, the alternative products, the potential retailers, what are they currently selling for what price point, and then work backwards, take out their margin, take out your margin. You're now left with material budget of 50 quid, and you can spend 3 hours making it based on minimum wage or whatever it might be. And very quickly you can sandwich it from both ends and go, oh, it doesn't work. So don't invest as much time, energy and money in the early stages, and don't get carried away. And very quickly look at the potential sales. And that at the time I wrestled with that, because I felt like it was taking away the joyous part of design, but actually it's very savvy, because you can quite quickly eliminate that product and move on to the next one, which might be more commercially viable.
Let me ask you one final question. Do you look at the world of design as being kind of absolutely critical for us to start navigating our way through? Or do you think actually our fear of change and our fear of kind of what's happened over the last year or so has meant that kind of we're going to be less resistant to new ideas and more kind of hunker down into what we know?
Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think we're all, I used to think I was invincible before the pandemic. I thought, worst case, I'll get in my van and my tools, I'll go down to a building site and labour for a day, because there was always work available. We've never been locked down. We didn't think that was possible. So I thought, I don't need a safety net. I don't need to play it safe. I'll just always push the boundaries and do innovative things. Life will be good. So I think this has been a shot across our bows of, oh, just remember, not everything's within your control. You can't just claim that you can graft hard and make a living, you know. In terms of designer's responsibility, when I started my life as a designer, it was because I enjoyed it. It was, I was quite good at sketching. My design technology teacher was also the rugby teacher. So I was captain of the rugby team. So we got on well, and it just all fell into place. But I never for once thought designers have a responsibility and a privilege. We're so privileged that we can change the world. And it sounds so over the top, but it's entirely true that we need designers to be pushing those boundaries. And I did a show a couple of years ago, and it frustrates me, but I think it's true that quite often it's military, space exploration. It's some of those very, very forward-thinking areas of society where you have big budgets, basically. So we did a show where we toured Japan and Korea and places looking at new technology and exoskeletons and augmented reality and artificial intelligence, all the things that we know are coming. But I don't have a budget to, I usually break up a pallet and turn it into a table. I don't have the budget to invest billions into space exploration. I mean, Elon does now, he's done all right. But it is our privilege and our honor and our duty, I think. Once you've qualified as a designer, you have to constantly be striving to lead everybody into the future with good design, good technology, embracing these technologies and taking technologies from one sector and moving them into another to make life easier, to make life better, safer. I'm completely involved in the camper van world right now, and I'm amazed at how few technologies they've taken on from other sectors. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just saying, hey, have a look at what these guys are doing over here in the marine industry or the electric vehicle world. So it's not always about reinventing the wheel completely and being a mad inventor. You don't need to do that, but just taking other people on this journey, because I don't want to be derogatory towards other trades, but other trades are sometimes just following. They're doing as they're told, and they don't have this opportunity to change the perception people have of certain industries and stuff. So yeah, I didn't realize that when I started out my life as a designer. I just thought it was doing some sketches and making things and sipping on lattes and wearing a beret or something. I thought it was just a fancy pants job for the future, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a lot of hard graft. Sometimes you're under a vehicle getting covered in soot and dust and wielding spanners. And that's what I love about it ultimately, I think, is the diversity of my day. Sometimes it will be doing an awards ceremony or presenting a TV show, but then the next minute I've got my face mask on, angle grinding a piece of old rust because I'm making a prototype or renovating something. So yeah, the world of design isn't about Gucci handbags and white t-shirts with big ghastly slogans. It is about changing the world, and every designer, I believe, has that opportunity to do so.
Max, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Likewise.